Hey everybody, today I'm going to review STEELMAN's 9-liter manual fluid evacuator. Now this particular unit I've used for about the last 6 months, and I've done somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 oil changes with it. Now it can be used for a lot of other things other than oil changes, but that's my primary use, and I gotta tell you, I've had no issues out of it once I got past the small learning curve. Now there are a few different tips that I'm going to share with you next to really make it work a lot better, and then you really will have trouble-free operation with it. And if you've looked at these online in the past, then you already know probably the most popular brand is going to be Evacuator. They do have a system that looks very similar to this, however this does come with one upgrade that I think makes it a better value. Specifically, it enables you to remove your brake fluid. It has a special hose with a special adapter. It's going to hook right on the bleeder valve, and it doesn't cost you anything extra like the Evacuator. So the Evacuator also has that option, but this one hose along with their unit costs about an additional $35 to $40. Now what I want to do in this video is show you exactly how this operates. I'll show you why I like the manual version better than the air-powered version, and then we're going to see how it actually performs. Here's a closer look at the unit, and I do want to point out that the entire storage portion is completely sealed. The lid does not come off of here, and the only way to insert oil or drain it is through this fill plug. Now after you're done filling it, that does pop out and it doubles as a drain plug, and it really works exceptionally well. Now on the side over here is where the pump's going to be. It is a hand pump, and you can see I do have the handle lined up with the carrying handle on the top. The reason for this is I don't want these little hoses to go flying around on me getting oil everywhere. And when you push this all the way down and line it up with the handle, it's going to lock in place, and if you do have those underneath of it, it will hold them securely. Now what you want to keep in mind, if this is just flipping around by itself, you can see the hoses are going to be very insecure. But all we need to do to lock those down is line the handle up, click it into place, and now they're not going to go anywhere. Around the base, just underneath of the pump, you'll notice a piece of metal sticking out. Now this will extend, and it's going to allow you to step on it. That way the unit is not going to go anywhere as you pump the handle. One tip I can give you for trouble-free operations will involve storing the tubes. Now there is a very thick tube and then a very thin tube. The thin tube is going down the dipstick. The thick tube is going to be plugged directly in the top of the unit. But what you want to keep in mind, the storage holder that's on the side will collect oil in the bottom because eventually it's going to drain out of the inside of the tubes and collect down there. There's no hole in the bottom, and you will eventually need to clean this out. And the problem's going to come when these rubber bushings set in that oil. It will cause them to swell, and you can see we have two different varieties. One with a very large hole, one with a very small hole, and they do two different things. The one with the large hole is actually going to plug in the top of the unit, and then the one with the small hole is where you're going to feed that smaller line that's going to go down the dipstick tube. If you put the one with the small hole face down in the oil, it's actually going to cause it to swell and it's not going to seal properly. So when you store these, always make sure you put the one with the large hole in the bottom, because even if that swells, it's not going to cause a problem and it's not going to cause any air leaks. Once you have the two tubes connected and you insert the smaller one down the dipstick tube, to remove the oil, all you'll need to do is just go ahead and pump the handle. Now let's do a test to see how much vacuum is created with each pump. I'm going to go ahead and pump 5 times. You can watch the gauge and watch how much it's going to build up. So in just 5 pumps we have 10 inches of vacuum, and then I'll go ahead and pump it 5 more times. So we have roughly about 13 inches of vacuum at 10 pumps, or 10 inches at 5 pumps. So typically when I'm changing the oil, I'll pump it between 5 and 10 times. And what you want to really keep in mind, the more you pump it, the faster the liquid is going to flow into it. Now let's go step by step, and I'll show you how easy it is to change the oil using the STEELMAN. The first thing you're going to do is make sure your car runs for at least 5 minutes, because the oil is going to drain out a lot easier if it's hot. If it's very cold, it's not going to drain out very easily, and it may not work at all. So always make sure that you bring it up to operating temperature before you use the oil extractor. Now other than that, with this pilot, we can actually remove the oil filter without pulling it up on ramps. So I'm going to show you how to do that. But if your car doesn't have that amount of clearance, you still would need to pull it up on ramps in order to change the filter. So in this vehicle, all we'll need to do is start it up, turn the wheel all the way to the right, and then turn it back off. Now that the wheel has been turned, we can see the oil filter on the side of the motor that we can now easily replace. You'll need to remove the oil fill cap and then also the dipstick out of the dipstick tube. Take the thin tube that comes with the STEELMAN and then just go ahead and feed that down in the dipstick tube until it bottoms out. With the larger tube, you're going to connect one side to the STEELMAN in the very top of it. And then the other side, you'll feed the thin hose down inside of it. And that's going to make one connection to the bottom of the oil pan. The final step is really just to pump this pump. It's going to build up vacuum pressure and it's going to suck all the oil out of the motor. And you can see it already flowing up through the tube. I'll build up the pressure and then it's going to completely evacuate the system. Now this is what you're looking for. You see how it's bouncing around and it's sucking a lot of air? That means that the pan's almost completely dry and it's getting the last little bit out. And this is what you're looking for at the very end, is a clear tube that it's sucking basically air through from the bottom of the motor. That means there's not going to be any oil left in it, and we can go ahead and remove the tubing from the dipstick tube. Because I did turn the wheel before I started, I can see the filter on the side of the motor and I'll be able to change it right out. Now if you don't have a vehicle with this configuration or the ground clearance for this, you would still need to pull it up on ramps in order to access the filter. So just think ahead before you drain all the oil out as to how you're going to remove and replace it. Now one thing you do want to keep in mind, the filter is still going to have oil in it because the STEELMAN cannot remove the fluid from that, and it will drain out when you do remove it from the vehicle. So make sure you have a pan underneath of it to catch that extra oil, otherwise it is going to get all over the ground. Now all you'll need to do is use a funnel to fill up the engine with oil as you normally would. Now finally all I'll need to do is start it up, let it run for about 15 seconds, turn it back off, then we'll top the oil levels off, check for leaks, and we'll be completely done. The final step, of course, is going to be cleanup, getting all the oil out of the container. Now what you want to keep in mind, the same port up here that the tubes were plugged into to fill it up will pop out, and that has a little spout to allow you to drain it out. Now I found that this pretty much gets stuck. You do need to use a pair of pliers to really break the tension free, because if you grab onto it by your hands, you're not going to be able to do it. Simply using some pliers with light force, you can move it back and forth, and it's going to pop right out. At this point, we can go ahead and pour all the oil back into an empty container for recycling. So now you've seen the STEELMAN 9-liter manual fluid evacuator for yourself. It works absolutely excellent. Like I showed you in that clip, it was very easy for me to change the oil because all I really had to do was remove the dipstick, install the STEELMAN, and pump the handle a few times. And because of the vacuum pressure that was created, it did all the work in just a matter of minutes. All the oil was out of the motor. Then at that point, all I had to do was change the filter, add new oil, and I was on my way. Now I do want to point out, because the manual does not require any air like the air-powered version does, you can use it anywhere. You don't need electricity or an air supply in order to operate it. And if you're out in the middle of a field, in an unheated garage, or let's say out on your farm somewhere, you can very easily change pretty much any fluids with this in just a matter of minutes. Now that being said, you do not want to mix fluids. So let's say you fill this up a third of the way with engine oil. You don't then want to evacuate coolant out. You do want to drain that oil out into a recyclable container and then do your coolant so you can recycle them separately. You don't want to mix them and then cause problems at your local landfill. Now, if you ever do have a problem with this, STEELMAN does carry a 1-year warranty on it. So as long as it's not an abuse situation, they will fix it for you free of charge. If you like this video, please click like. If you like my channel, please click subscribe. And thanks for watching.